The Charlotte Hornets are behind a bid to bring the Charlotte Sting back to the Queen City as part of WNBA expansion. Joining me now, the man who broke the story earlier this week, Mitchell Northam from WUNC, also hosts the Women's Basketball Podcast. Mitchell, we talked right after Ally tip-off, and your feelings then were that Charlotte would be more in line for a women's Final Four than WNBA expansion. Now that this Berman group has committed to backing this, and they have been backed by Charlotte Hornets ownership. Does that move WNBA? Does that move the chances up, and how significantly does it in your mind?
Yeah, I would say that I still like their chances, to host a Final Four. I just think the city is a good shape for the Final Four. It's walkable, it's got the arena. We've seen women's college basketball draw big crowds there. But yeah, I think this is significant in terms of going after a WNBA franchise. When I was first hearing about a bid for the Sting, I didn't take it 100% seriously at first, and then when I was able to confirm that, the Charlotte Hornets new ownership group, was backing it, that's when I think I started to take it more seriously. It's just important, I think, to have kind of some of these bigger names and deep pockets attached to such a thing like a WNBA expansion bid. So we'll kind of see where this goes. There's a lot of other cities in contention for these couple spots. I think the WNBA wants to get to 16 teams. That's the race is kind of on for the 16th at the moment, and then maybe eventually to 18 before it's all said and done.
So when you look at the now we can now that we're in the competition, let's look at the competition, right? So when you look at the group, I don't know, it's about 10 or so cities that are vying for Team 16. Where might Charlotte? What would give Charlotte, a benefit over some of these cities, and what may other cities have over Charlotte that are on those lists?
Yeah, I think it's in Charlotte's favor that the Hornets are finally supporting this, right? I think to have that buy-in from the NBA and your team in your city is a good thing. I think that we can assume that if the Hornets are in on this, that a hypothetical WNBA team would probably play in the Spectrum Center. I think that's a good thing, that the Hornets, have an arena, and a good arena, for this type of thing. But there are a lot of other really good and competitive bids out there. I think at the front of the line is probably Nashville. Just the way that they rolled their bid out last month,
Yep.
the way they announced it. I mean, they had a team name ready to go. They had colors. They have this connection to Pat Summitt. They have Candace Parker involved in the bid, Peyton Manning. So you have these big names, these deep pockets. They have an arena there in Nashville with the hockey team. I think I would probably put Nashville at the front of the line, but I do think that the WNBA wants to increase its footprint in the Southeast. I mean, as it stands right now, you have a team in Atlanta, you have a team in DC, and you have a team in Texas, and kind of outside of that, there's not really any other W footprint here in the Southeast where there's a lot of really good women's college basketball, right? And we saw that at the Ally tip-off where, South Carolina and NC State bring in 15,000 fans to that building. So I do think that kind of being in this footprint and having just that connection to basketball in this state is a good thing that's going for Charlotte.
Yeah, you mentioned that Tennessee Summit rollout. I mean, that was more like shock and awe. Charlotte's announcement was kind of like a covert operation, but you scooped it, and then we kind of confirmed it drip by drip. Um, the WNBA, as you mentioned, it looks like they want to get to 16 by 28. But given all of these cities that have a good pitch for the league to come to them, and not just the Hornets, I believe the Bucks, I think Cleveland's, the Cavs are
Mhm.
involved, like that. There's NBA backing. Do you think the NBA might get a little, not greedy, but a little more hungry for expansion, maybe a little bit faster than they initially thought?
I think that's certainly possible. I mean, the next team that they decide to add, if my math is right, will be 16 because we have Golden State coming on this season here in 2025, and in 2026, I think the assumption is that Toronto and Portland will come online and start playing games, and those teams have already been announced. So the 16 team, the race for that spot, I think, is on. But if you're the WNBA, I think you're looking to sort of capitalize on this moment that you have in women's college basketball right now. There was a report out, I think it was Forbes, that said the WNBA is the fastest growing professional sports brand right now. The WNBA finals this past season, that shattered TV records that it previously had. All the games. I mean, a lot of teams had to move their games to bigger arenas when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese came to town. So I think if you're the W and like this momentum keeps on rolling, you want to capitalize on that, especially if you can attract deep-pocketed owners and investors. And yeah, you talked about Cleveland. They have a bid out there that's backed by Dan Gilbert. Detroit has a bid out there that's backed by Tom Gores, their NBA owner. Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, he wants a team in Houston. And, Cleveland, Houston, and Detroit, like Charlotte, would be a return for the WNBA. Although they had teams, 10, 20 years ago at this point, that either folded or moved for whatever reason. I thought it was noteworthy. I think it was a week or two ago when the WNBA basically renewed copyrights for
Yeah.
all those old teams, the Charlotte thing included. Yeah, I think that beyond 16, like we could get to 18 pretty quickly if the WNBA wanted to.
All right, so Charlotte's got the money, power, and influence behind this bid, but we've mentioned the other cities and bids are also competitive. What else could Charlotte, do you think, do to kind of enhance its bid and separate itself? I mean, is it just a matter of total money? Is it who's putting the money in? What comes to mind for that?
Yeah, I think like if they did something like Nashville, right? Nashville's bid got so many eyeballs and attention, and I think put it at the front of the line for a lot of people because of the way they rolled it out. I mean, they had everything ready to go. Like I said, they had colors, they had a team name. They said we're going to play in this building, and you had all those big names attached to it in terms of people investing. I think if they could get, tap into that Sting history a little bit, and be more public with it, right? And kind of have a PR campaign that says, we're trying to bring the Sting back and really lean into that and the team's history and that sort of thing. And try to get some bigger name investors attached to it. I don't know what interest Michael Jordan has in, being a part of a WNBA, ownership team. Dawn Staley's coaching just down the road in South Carolina. I think having maybe some more flashier names attached to it would be helpful just because like right off the cuff, if you're talking to the regular person in Charlotte, they might not know who the Berman family is, and they might not know who the new Hornets owners are right off the cuff. And so just having some bigger names attached to it, I think could help them a little bit.
Yeah, perhaps a coach investor and Don Staley would put it over the top, but that is a pipe dream. But this isn't a pipe dream anymore. It's real. They're in the mix. So Mitchell Northam from WUNC, you can find his work on X at Primetime Mitch. Appreciate you joining us again, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.